So for those who missed it, Jason Lockenfor had a story over the weekend. Our own Jason Lockenfor, CBS Sports NFL Insider. Jay had it was more of, I guess you could classify it as a report. It was basically that teams were calling Seattle, gauging their interest or willingness, as I paraphrase Jason's report, to trade Russell Wilson, to listen to trade options or trade parameters, right? So the follow-up, though, and this was a tweet, and Jason delivered this, I believe it was last night or this morning when I saw it, basically saying, kind of doubling down and pressing it further, saying that Wilson's camp is just flat out frustrated with Seattle, and this situation really bears it worth watching. So somebody that we thought would have a statue outside of that gorgeous stadium, and he still will, even if he's dealt tomorrow. He accomplished a ton. He still would. But maybe this isn't the lengthy marriage that I think we all just kind of assumed it would be.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it should be, right? It should be a lengthy marriage between these two, and he's got all the money in the world, obviously. He's got the hearts of Seattle Seahawks fans. The organization loves him clearly because of the conversations that we know that take place behind the scenes. He alludes to it, not necessarily directly saying it, but he has conversations with, Snyder, formerly Snyder. He's not there anymore, but, the general manager and the head coach. And, it got a little bit deeper when we start thinking about the role that quarterbacks should play other than being the quarterback of the team. Now, this issue first came up with Deshaun Watson and the disconnect that seemingly is going on with Houston and with that situation down there. And at the time, I was like, why would you guarantee or at least tell him that he's going to be involved in personnel decisions? Or more importantly, for Deshaun Watson, it was the head coach or the general manager, right? Shouldn't somebody above his head be making that decision? Well, apparently, BT, all quarterbacks want this power. I guess this is a new thing in the NFL. It never was when I was around. You trusted the scouts and the general manager and the coaches, who, by the way, are doing these evaluations as well. So in some ways, it feels like not intentionally, but in some ways, it feels like a slap in the face to all those people who are doing their jobs on a yearly, weekly, daily basis, evaluating talent, right? Whether that's someone on the coaching staff, the quality of control guy, the scouts that are out looking for how to make this team better. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to get overruled or potentially be overruled by Russell Wilson. That doesn't make any sense to me, and it feels like the decision-making hierarchy is disrupted when you allow like a quarterback, or really anybody, but it's really only the quarterbacks, to make these type of decisions or have input on these type of decisions.
Let me just say something to every team out there. I know the NFL is a little different, way different than the NBA. I guess this applies to the NFL more so than the other teams. But NFL teams, if you grant the players, what they're chasing, like say on personnel matters, right? You deserve to be locked in the basement for a couple of years and fail, because here's what's going to happen. Now, you can't, even if somebody deserves some say, and you can make the case, Russell Wilson, age 32, future Hall of Famer, champion, should have two if they call the right play, blah, blah, blah. Okay. You can make a very strong case that Russell Wilson has earned the right to weigh in on personnel matters. The problem is that if you grant that player that latitude, right, and then in a year or so they're unhappy about something else, they can still look to leave, and in essence, you're left with a player that you might not have believed in, but you acquiesce to your quarterback's demands.
Yes.
You can't. It's too lawless of an environment. Yeah. It's a cavalier way of doing business. Now, you got to have something in between. It can't be like, all right, I'm the 1960. I'm the coach. You're the player. You do what No, it's got to be collaborative. I get that. We got to meet you halfway in the middle for sure. You have to. Otherwise, they're not going to believe in you. They're not going to stick around like Deshaun Watson. I get it. But you can't tilt the pendulum so far in the other direction that if that player bails, your cupboards are stocked with commodities that you don't even believe in.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Dan Patrick is at this point where he would even ask that question.
You had to ask that question.
I know, but we're at that point where you have to ask that question. it seems so foreign to me. Now
I see what you're saying.
Like, I know that I've been retired for 14 years now, and I'm not as in touch with what the locker room dynamics are or the superstar front office dynamics are. But I had a pretty good relationship with the New York Giants. They weren't coming to me saying, hey, we got this, free agent guard that's available. You think he'd be good for you guys? I mean, how the hell do I know? I haven't watched him on tape. You know what I mean?
What about a free agent, though?
Free agents are one thing. I know, and I'll give you the perfect example. When we signed Kerry Collins, but it wasn't like Ernie Accorsi, our general manager at the time, was asking us for permission or saying, hey, take a look at Kerry Collins. What do you think? It was more like, we're going to sign this guy. I know what the preconception is about him. He was just asking us, as some of the veterans, to get to know him, right? Just give time before you judge him. Don't take all that baggage, because Kerry had a lot of baggage.
And by the way, Steve, for those very quickly young fans who might not know the baggage, what exactly are you referring to?
He got arrested for a DUI. He came out and the look was horrible.
He had a cigar in his mouth,
and he was just disheveled. There was reports that he was saying racist things in the locker room, that he quit on his team, didn't want to play in a game. Like, it was all these things that were following him when he became a free agent, and the Giants went hard after him, basically bidding against themselves. I don't think anybody else was running to the front of the line to sign Kerry Collins.
I don't think so.
And Ernie Accorsi, I guess, I don't know what he did, but he spent some time with him. He looked at it as a great signing for us. And by the way, it turned out to be a great signing for us.
Yeah, Kerry was good for you guys.
And we none of us prejudged him. We just let him be him. He, told us his story, and he took us to the Super Bowl. I mean, it was a good signing, but it wasn't like Ernie was saying, do I have permission to sign this guy?
Yeah.
All right. And so, like, to think that a player would know enough about the inside and outside, the on-field, all that stuff about someone who they don't necessarily know, unless they do happen to know and went to school with them or whatever it may be. But it's a stretch to me. And so the fact that, again, that Dan Patrick is asking that question, do you want to have personnel decisions, influence? It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, look, again, I may be an antiquated old fool who just doesn't, I'm not making $100 million, and I didn't in my career, but this feels like it's asking for trouble.
That's strong. Good job on that, Tiki. I think that the way you frame it with Kerry, Ernie's not saying, hey, what do you think about his footwork or his arm strength, which, by the way, he had a rocket. It was more man-to-man, give this guy a chance. We know what's out there, the perception. Look him in the eyes and judge him for who he is the moment he walks in the door. Not about football stuff, about he had to make sure that the leaders on the team would give him a chance to earn the respect.
That's right.
Okay, so that's totally different than, this guy's more reliable on third down. Clearly get that. Now, listen, if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm pretty unhappy, too, because this thing's going in the wrong direction. Not only are we getting further and further away from a championship, but each year I'm getting my brains beat in a little bit more and a little bit more. He's always been sacked in the 40s, outside of his first year when he was sacked 33 times. Every other year.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah. Every other year, literally every other year, not just literally every year. He's been in the 40s, 1 year in the 50s 3 years ago. So it's been 51, 48, and 47 the last 3 years. And before that, it was hovered, low to mid 40. So it's getting worse. It's going to the high 40s and the low 50s. And Russell Wilson's probably saying to himself, I'm getting my brains beat in. I have one of the worst offensive lines in football, and I'm one of the most talented guys in the league. Now, he won't say that because there's still some humility there, although he doesn't seem to be as humble as he used to be, and I'm fine with that. At one point, he was just totally humble. Now he's flexing a bit, and that's fine. He wants to win. But what he told Dan, you know who we're going to blame? I'm going to blame us. I'm going to blame us. And I'm going to blame Dan first, because Dan's been doing this a lot longer than we've been doing this because he's older. Everybody, Dan, Cowherd, Greeny, us, all the national Shine, everybody, right, that has a national platform. I don't mean the local shows as much. The reason Dan had to ask that question, and the reason Russell's answer was about you heard him say, hey, we're judged on legacies. We're judged on how many we win. It's because we always shove it down their throat. They haven't won enough. And we've gone from the start of the race to the end of the race.
Yes.
And context in between has been, I would say, blurred, but the better word is removed.
Yeah.
It's like we just want this microwave legacy, and he's no dummy. He's sitting back saying, I only have one, and I'm better than a lot of these guys that have more than one.
Yeah, the process.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, the process is being shortcutted, at least from an evaluation standpoint, because we carry the narrative in a lot of ways, and so his legacy is being determined by what people are saying on radio and TV and even in blogs and social media. And because he hasn't won, a lot of that is part his fault, because he does hold the ball a long time. Tom Brady hasn't always had fantastic blocking, but you very rarely see him get sacked in the 30s and the 40s of his career in seasons. And so part of it is the O-line, and we've talked about this for years with the Seattle Seahawks. Part of it is him, though. And so it's hard to, I don't know, it's hard for me to just accept that this should be normal, even though Russell Wilson probably it would be good at this. It's just hard for me to accept that it's prudent, because now all of a sudden, what happens if it's out there that Russell Wilson didn't want some player? You know what I mean? It becomes uncomfortable. I think.
A very slippery slope.
Very, very slippery.
Uh-huh.
If a guy in the locker room
dynamics can change.
If a guy in the locker room is making decisions about guys in the locker room,
that's not good.
No,
that's definitely not good, because you could speak to this certainly, but I mean, I'm even smart enough to know that, when you're in the huddle, yes, you're an organization, but there's still an element of us versus them. We're trying to get our cheese, and they're trying to prevent us from getting the max cheese. So there's always that little line of delineation. Hey, we're all the New York Giants, but at the end of the day, they want to save a few bucks, and we want to make as much as we can. So there's a little debate. Now, the great teams, you pay the right players, and that works itself out. But there's always that, underlayer awareness, right?
Yep.
That they're either trying to get rid of you, they're trying to draft over you, they're trying to shave $2 million off your salary. It is what it is.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden it's Russell Wilson's fault that you got cut, and they bring someone else in. That's not going to sit well with the rest of the team. I'm just saying.
I agree.